Raising money for charity is a powerful way to make a positive impact on society. Whether it's organising events, launching online campaigns, or engaging in creative fundraising initiatives, every contribution counts. My guest today, Sam Hammond, took it one step further when during his own fundraising campaign, he broke 2 world records, the fastest times to complete a half marathon and full marathon carrying a fridge. Today we talk about why he decided to take on this mammoth task, his training schedule, the copious amounts of hate mail he received, and the emotional impact behind shattering 2 world records.
Welcome to the Stand Easy podcast, sharing the stories of the men and women of the armed forces, past and present, who have achieved greatness. Your host is Crash Stevenson.
Sweet. Sam, thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate you taking time out. What do people know you as?
So as of late, I've been known as Man vs. Fridge for carrying a fridge around.
I mean, it seems like 100% if anyone in the military is doing any sort of physical challenge, it's not bad. It's not good enough just to do a marathon. You've got to do a marathon with a chicken suit, or you've got to do a marathon with a fridge. What inspired you to start running around with a fridge on your back?
So it's like doing a marathon is not an easy feat, full stop. But when it comes to raising money for charity, just running a marathon isn't overly interesting for everyone. You hear about it way too often. So you back off that. It needs to be something silly and something that's seen as physically a lot more challenging, not that the average person could just go out and do.
Yeah, and fair one.
You know, as a Royal Marine.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
I would say as a Royal Marine, carrying weight obviously comes pretty naturally to us. So the weight of the fridge isn't really the issue. Obviously, the size of it and the shape of it do then add extra factors. And it's big, it's silly, it's going to get noticed, and it's definitely helped me with fundraising.
Who is it you're fundraising for?
So most recently, I was raising money for SAFA, the Armed Forces charity. I'm sure you know them well, but for anyone listening that doesn't, they support not only sort of serving forces and veterans, but they also look after our families. So the people we leave at home often need help, and SAFA is a great charity to help those people.
So typically when lads raise money, they start with the Royal Marines charity and sort of centre around that. Is there any specific reason why you started with SAFA?
So there's no sort of personal link to SAFA. However, when I was at 29 Commando, the cross country that we used to run there always used to be an aid for SAFA. Right. And through like a small bit of a connection through them already, I've just heard a few different bits from different people before I started to raise money about what SAFA had done for them. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different rather than going straight through the RMC. Yeah. But, I spoke to SAFA and see if they was interested.
And you decided, of all things, I mean, why a fridge? Did you know that there was a previous world record holder with it?
So it all started out last July. Been based at Caldros for a little while now, pretty bored in a non-deployable job, just training Matlows how to shoot. And I needed something a little bit more. And I came up with the idea of carrying a fridge up Snowdon. Idea being I wanted to raise money for Clonbarras Mountain Rescue. And then again, the fridge, big, noticeable, and I should be able to get up a hill with, 26, 27 kilos on my back. But as soon as I sort of announced that I was going to do it, within a week, something popped up on one of my feeds saying there's a bloke called Michael Copeland, who's at ex-forces, who was doing the exact same thing. And I thought, of all the random things I could think of, someone else is doing it. So then it became the Welsh Free Peaks in 24 hours. And then sort of the media that built around it, the sort of the hype behind sort of Man vs. Fridge grew. And it's sort of towards the end of that challenge where someone mentioned the marathon world record to me carrying a fridge. And I thought I'd have to give it a crack.
And you did it?
Yeah, a lot of training. So I'm not I'd say I'm naturally a runner, but over the last 5 or 6 years, I've not really ran at all because I don't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I used to run a lot as a young Marine and sort of through my teenage years and stuff. But last 5 or 6 years, since 2019, my Garmin had only clocked 50 miles in total of running.
Wow.
So when the idea of the challenge came about, I also noticed the half marathon world record. So I literally put on my fizz rig, walked out of base and ran a half marathon. It took me 2 hours, 15 minutes, and I was in absolute clip at the end of it, which, you know, for someone that's meant to be reasonably fit, a 2 hours, 15 half marathon isn't outstanding.
Hmm.
Knowing that I've then got to strap 25 kilos to my back and do it in roughly the same amount of time was quite daunting. But
So was there any sort of, I mean, this is a bit of a strange question, I guess, because it's a strange concept of running a marathon and a half marathon with a fridge, but how did your training differ running with a fridge to how a normal person would run without a fridge?
so I followed a reasonably similar-ish. So I looked at marathon training plans and decided to follow a similar-ish sort of schedule. But obviously, it's all focused around load, so you don't want to overload your body and train too hard because otherwise your recovery is too long. So rather than sort of sticking exactly to it, I worked massively on heart rate. So a lot more heart rate running, and I could transfer running clean fatigue in my trainers to then putting 10 kilos on my back or 20 kilos back in my Bergen, and then I could continue with the same heart rate, if that makes sense. So if I'm
Yeah.
running 8 miles, put my Bergen on, I can then run 10-minute miles and keep the heart rate the same. So I wasn't pushing too hard in one aspect rather than the other.
Is that like the, is it Mathifit or Mathitone?
Yeah, they call it math, don't they?
Math, yeah. So it's something on the lines of 100 beats per minute plus your age is like your zone 2 or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lad when I was in med squadron at CLR was all over that. So he for Trip Fizz one day he got everyone to give it a try. So it was a 2 mile circuit, and for those that had the heart rate monitors, it was easy. You like set it so you don't go over X amount of beats, and he got everyone to calculate it. He says, for those of you that don't have heart rate monitors, the best way to gauge it is run with your mouth closed or walk with your mouth closed. If it gets to the point where you've got to start breathing through your mouth, chances are your heart rate will be going over what that zone 2 maximum is. And it was phenomenal. There's a guy there called Sam Deller, and Jesus, this guy was so phenomenally fit that he did the 2 miles, and he did it like faster than what I can run is what I could normally run. And yeah, just completely non-emotional, gets to the end, he's like, yeah, that was good. And I'm like, absolutely breathing out my arse. It was ridiculous. But anyway,
It makes a big difference, I think.
yeah. But it's so one of the guys that I work with at the minute, he's now doing that, and he's finding it difficult because of the way he's trained currently. Sorry, because of the way he's trained in the past, his natural inclination is to breathe through his mouth and get out with breath and all the rest of it. But because he's working solely off of what his watch and what his, I was going to say pacemaker there, his heart rate monitor is telling him, he's finding it difficult because he's not having to run as fast, but his natural inclination is to run faster. And he's finding that really difficult.
Exactly the same as I did initially.
Yeah.
For several reasons. So if a lot of my training I sort of put around about 150 to 155, so it's sort of low zone 3 for me, according to what my watch says, and it is relatively easy running, especially when I just go out for a 5 miler. What would normally I could probably do about 6.5 minute pace, if I'm out running, and now I'm doing like 8 minute plus, and I'm hitting a hill, and rather than absolutely grizzling up the hill, I'm sometimes in clean fatigue walking up a hill. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I going? And it's so hard mentally to not just run.
Yeah. I think it's because it's programmed into us, isn't it? That if you're running, you should be running as fast as you can,
Yeah,
or as
absolutely.
far as you can.
But then in contrast, it did then mean when I transferred to weighted training that I could train for the same amounts of time, and it wouldn't be like it would they definitely correlate a lot better. So my recovery was really, really good, and I didn't feel that I blew out, if you know what I mean. I didn't hit a point where my like exhaustion. I only had 1 week, which was after the second half marathon with a fridge, where I had then worked at 175 beats per minute for 2 hours, so high end.
Yeah.
And then I felt it, and I was like, I could see why I can't train like that constantly.
Yeah, I mean, it must take its toll on you. Did you have any sort of physio support or any masseuses come out and square you away?
No, not really.
No?
I- Being brutally honest, I've not had a single niggle or ache. Blisters and loss of toenails have been the worst bit, just to the sheer force through my feet.
Yeah,
But I've not had a single injury where I've gone, oh, that's bad. Rubs and scrapes, obviously, from carrying the weight and it just shifting around my back have been pretty treacherous at times. But I think again, where it's sort of that slow pace that it's allowed me to build up such a strong endurance that I felt like carrying weight just becomes so much second nature.
did you get
Um,
any like mega weird looks as you're because there'll be people of all levels and all fitness levels and that when you run the marathon. Did you ever take over? Did you any put my teeth in? Did you ever overtake anyone and get like really fucking weird looks from them? I can imagine like Mr. Blobby running past someone, they'd be like, "What the fuck?" But a guy carrying a fridge must be like surreal to some people. Did anyone comment or anything as you were running past them?
so Brighton's probably a better one to describe this with. So Brighton half marathon is where I did the official attempt for the half marathon with a fridge. Um, and when setting up and I was speaking to the race director, and they were mega on side, mega helpful. They basically lashed me up, and the time to beat was 2 hours 45 or 48. It was 2 hours 40 something. And so I started at the front of like the 2 hour 30 group, so the first man off the line. But by time I'd sorted out my starting position, 2 to 3 months later, I'd got a hell of a lot fitter than I expected. And I ran a 2 hour 4 minute half marathon with the fridge,
Jeez.
which meant I did start at the beginning of the 2 hour 30 mark, but everyone that started and was aiming for 2 hours 20, 2 hours 15, 2 hours 15, I sort of caught up and I passed. I reckon on the Brighton roads, I passed at least 1,000 people. And
Wow.
as you said, a hell of a lot of comments, a hell of a lot of remarks, especially the fact I put in a lot of effort in the last sort of 3 miles. I got to 10 mile, felt good. So I said to my partner who was filming me throughout, I said, let's push this last 3 miles in. So as everyone's starting to get tired, I picked up the pace by about 30 seconds a mile and was just picking people off left, right, and centre. And the comments, the looks, it's good for your own motivation, that's for sure.
Yeah, I bet. So the you now hold two official world records,
Yeah,
marathon and half marathon.
yeah.
Did I read right that the full marathon attempt you beat the previous record by something like 40 minutes?
57 minutes. So,
57 minutes.
so the
That
world
was held
record,
by an American as well, wasn't it?
yeah. So it was initially set by a British guy. I think he did it 5 hours 58 minutes. Who I actually met at the start line of London.
Wow.
He came over and shook my hand basically. But his time was beaten. It was either last year or the year before by an American, and he ran in 5:48. So he took about 10 minutes off the old world record.
And you've
Um,
gone along and smashed another 50 minutes off of it.
yeah, 57 minutes. I was hoping on the day when I was about sort of 17, 18 miles in, and I was looking at my time and all, if I maintained the pace I had by time I was at 17, 18 miles, I'd have beaten it well over an hour. But unfortunately, that infamous wall came and kicked the living shit out of me.
Yeah. So what is it when you get to there's a specific mile in a marathon. There's like this weird thing that surrounds like mile 20 or 21 where everyone gets to that and then bang they start to go down. Did you feel that? You said in the last 3 miles that you picked the pace up, but did you get to a point and think, oh, I'm having a bit of a wobble here?
So the picking the pace up was for the half there, but for London, um, I've got loads of little clips and stuff. I set off really well, set off ahead of pace because I just felt so comfortable. I had like little bracelets on, which basically had my timings. My right wrist was the timings for a 5.5 hour marathon, which meant if I'm near that, I'm going to beat him by about sort of 15 to 20 minutes. And then on my left wrist, I put a 5 hour strap on, which meant if I can go sub 5 hours, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the times that I meant to be at each mile and the time I was getting there. And I was almost a minute a mile quicker because I was running that fast on the day.
Which
You know,
compounding makes a big difference.
Yeah, so I got to the half marathon point, and my average time was 10 minutes 12 seconds officially uh, per mile. And I've been sending a few voice notes to a few people whilst running, um, because I was trying to keep an eye on a few other people that were running, which is as weird as it is, but also kept me busy. And everyone's like, "Sam, you just slow the hell down. You need to slow down. You need to slow down." But I felt so comfortable.
Mm.
I held that till about mile 15, and I hit a very, very small incline. You probably wouldn't even notice it running without kit on. But it was the first time I went from feeling fine, like, oh, my legs are heavy. So I switched tactic then, and I started walking every single hill, which was my initial tactic throughout the whole race.
Yeah.
Uh, that held on quite well until about between mile 20 and 21, which is exactly what you've just said. Got to the top of a hill, and as I went to run along the straight, I got about 200 meters along, and then I had to start walking again, and it was still flat. And
Oh,
I'm looking at the time, and I'm like, oh dear, I'm in trouble, knowing that there's 6 miles to go still, roughly 5 to 6 miles. I've seen all the videos of people fully bonking out on marathons, like one of the Brownlee brothers on their triathlon when you can no longer. And in my head, I'm like, I know I'm not there now, but with another 6 miles to go, is that going to happen?
yeah.
And
Wow.
then this is sort of, I guess, the bootneck mindset where I'm around the 4 hour point now, and I've got 6 miles to go. So if I walked the rest of it, I'm going to break that world record with, probably by about 20 to 30 minutes roughly. So it's in the bag as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Then you've got the question: do you absolutely grizz it and just work as hard as you can and run as much as you can and empty yourself? But then you've got the risk of the wall really hitting you where you can't come back. Once your energy's gone, once you're unable to walk, sort of thing. Or do I just walk and just get the world record and be happy? But luckily, being a bootneck, I was just like, oh, I just may as well crack on and do what I can do, and
Just grizz it.
just kept grizz a bit. There are some, if you look on my Instagram, there are some horrendous photos of how you can tell how much pain I'm in
Yeah.
and how sad I am on the inside.
How did it feel once you obviously knew from because you could look at your watch, but once you crossed the line and you know everything sort of settled down, how did it feel? Was it climatic? Was it anticlimactic? Because you knew you had it in the bag?
Um, so as you're going down past where the guards barracks is, you got all the big like 800 meters to go, 400 meters to go, and then you spin around 180 degrees and come up the mall. Going down towards sort of Buckingham Palace, it was so depressing because I was like, oh, I run this last 800 meters, and I ran like 200 meters, and that was me. I literally could not run anymore, and I was really really worried that I was going to finish weak, and I was going to have to walk at the finish.
Yeah.
I was massively in my own head, but I did. So I sort of walked sort of 400 meters, and as it swung round to the mile, I then broke into the world's most pathetic shuffle, befitting of someone with a cap comforter after final legs. That sort of pace.
Brilliant.
Yeah, managed to run it in. But finishing, I couldn't tell you if I was happy or sad about the whole thing, other than I was just happy to get it off my back.
Yeah, I bet. I
Literally
bet.
couldn't wait to get that thing down.
So you've with your world records, because I've never spoken to anyone that has a world record. I've got a guest lined up who holds a world record for running a marathon wearing plates and a helmet. Um, he actually ran it. He ran it and broke the world record, and then it was denied because he wore the wrong kind of kit. So then he went and reran it wearing the correct kit and broke it. But anyway, how did it feel? What happens when you're officially presented? I saw you with a plaque that you're presented from Guinness. What's the whole? How does that happen, and what's the
So,
gem behind it?
so funny you should mention that world record. Through Guinness World Record, you apply for the one that you want to break. It takes 8 to 12 weeks for them to say, yes, you can give it a go on the specific date. You then have to go through a verification process where you provide them with a sort of a photo of they call it costume, what your costume is. And then at London, it's nice and easy. I turned up in the morning and there's a guy there with his little suit on, looked at my fridge and went, okay. And then when I got to the finish line, handed me the certificate, well done. Brighton, or if you haven't got an adjudicate there and you don't want to pay a ridiculous sum of money, you've got to get so much evidence. When I say so much, I mean race director, witnesses, loads of photos and or film, and it's almost more hassle than it's worth
Mm.
on other events. But London Marathon is so easy, so easy because they were there and it's good to go.
So do they
As
now
a,
hold a place in your house? Have you got them framed? Well, obviously they're framed, but have you got them hanging up?
so they actually don't come framed; they just come just as single certificates. But they're in the process now. They're sat with a company. I'm waiting for them to be framed with their respective medal and a
So
font.
wait, hold on. You do all of that, and they hand you a flimsy bit of paper that says you've broken a world record and you've got to do everything else.
Yeah, I wish they handed you the piece of paper. You've got to go onto the website and apply for your own certificate for them to send it to you.
Jesus Christ.
About 2 weeks later, it turns up in the post.
I mean, that's anticlimactic.
Yeah, so the one they gave you. So when I finished Brighton, it took, I had to get all my evidence together, write covering letters, get the evidence statements, send it off, and then it's meant to be an 8 to 12 week wait to see if they accept it. Luckily, I then had people from Guinness World Record getting in touch with me about London at the same time, and I was like, "Hey, I've got this going through." Rather than paying the £500 for a 5-day fast track of evidence, they managed to sort of square it away for free. It just took a few weeks. But it took me 2 months maybe to get my first certificate, and then the London certificate took about 10 days.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But at the same time, when you open that envelope still and you pull it out, it does get that warm and fuzzy in your heart that it's yours and you've done it. And I don't know if you're all like me. I remember having Guinness World Record books as a kid.
Yeah.
I used to look through it as a kid and see what I could do there and then, whether that's the high jump or the furthest throw of something. I'd be doing it in my back garden.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I
for me,
used to get it for Christmas.
yeah, exactly.
Used to get the Guinness the Book of World Records for Christmas, and I'd sit there on Christmas morning before the family arrived, flick through it. I was like the guy with the longest nails who, I think it was only 3 or 4 years ago, he finally cut them. I remember him specifically. I don't know why, but I remember him. He had like his fingernails were like wrapped around each other and that. But yeah. Oh, you made me feel all nostalgic now as well.
Spitting facts to your family members like, "Mum, did you know?"
Yeah.
They couldn't give a shit whatsoever.
So what's your next challenge?
Well, I've changed jobs at work now, so I'm heading off and getting deployed pretty soon. Due back near Christmas time, I think.
Are you going to try and keep your fizz up whilst you're out there?
Yeah, I'll try and keep on top of my fizz. I don't know how much running I'm going to do.
Especially run on the treadmill with a fridge on your back. I don't imagine there's many fridges around.
Yeah,
where you're going.
Fridge got stored in the fridge in the shed the other day in the back corner as a little bit of a affair, but I've still got the fridge. There isn't any more world records to go for with the fridge, but there are definitely likely to be a few other events. And the record you alluded to before in a plate carrying helmet, I've got that sat in my inbox to have a look.
Oh, who knows? Maybe next year I can get 2 guests on
that have both had the same.
Yes.
I think the guy who's done it, he's from the UAE, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Pretty sure it's at 3 hours 40 minutes, if I remember correctly from looking.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
The only problem is, London was my first ever marathon.
Wow. And you did it with fridge on. I can't get. So I despise running at the best of times. I don't know whether it's because I did so much during my early career, but now I'm like, I can't stand it. If I used to run a marathon, I'd think I would have to run 2. One to say I've done it, and one to see if I can beat that original time. Other than that, I would have no interest in running 26 miles. I mean, I did for the Commando 80 challenge. Was that last year? Yeah, last year. So obviously there was the guys that were doing the 80 marathons in 80 days. But when they came round each unit, so within CLR, each squadron had to do a squadron-specific fizz challenge. So being in Med, I thought it'd be a great idea to do a 16.64 mile weighted stretcher carry.
Nice.
I thought it would be a good idea. we used one of the Resus Annies and then put some rig on Resus Annie and a helmet, got a couple of the lads to pick it up, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty light. So as I said earlier, if we're going to do anything, we're going to make it difficult and disgusting and honking. I'm like, right, go to the gym and get a couple of 20-kilo plates and we're going to stick that underneath it. Oh boy, did I regret that. And the thing is, there was very little hills. It was all around Chivener, so the flats of the Tarka Trail and Fremington, and we ended up we finished in Barnstable. But by Christ, that I was an absolute clip by the end of it. And I think we had about 14 or 15 lads. So there was almost enough. We were doing 2 minutes about. And I think the first minute we said, right, the first minute we'll jog and the second minute we'll walk and then we'll swap around and just keep doing that for the full 16.64 miles. But even doing that, it was absolutely disgusting. And I'm not keen to repeat it. I mean, we raised something like £1,300 for charity, but still, it was, oh, no. I actually got, and I don't know who grasped me in as such, but I got a thank you note and one of those challenge coins. I got one of them from the Royal Marines charity through a post to say thanks for the efforts that you put in on doing your stretcher carry. That was a nice touch.
It's the thing is, we're doing with things for charity. You don't do it for yourself. You're obviously doing it for the charity, but as a side effect, the sort of the warm and fuzzy you get on the inside, and it is like a little give back to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I've had all sorts of comments on me. The amount of hate messages or sort of hate comments I've had.
Why are people sending hate messages because you're raising money for charity? What goes through people's heads?
I've been called an attention seeker so many times, and I'm like, I understand that you're going to get attention, and that's the reason I'm doing it, because it raises more money.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been accused of the fridge being fake, as in like it's been gutted. My favorite one, someone's like, the motor's been taken out, so it's lighter. I'm like, the motor weighs less than a freaking kilo. So A, it's definitely in there. And B, I don't know who told you the motor's the heaviest bit, because it's definitely not, because it's just an empty fucking metal tin.
That is genuinely surprising that you doing stuff like that, raising money for a charity, and people are sending you fucking hate. That's disgusting. If you've sent Sam hate, fucking shame on you. Anyway.
It's terrible, but luckily I don't take any of it to heart. But
you can't.
It put someone off, and the way I see it is I've raised a good chunk of money for charity, and really the only thing I've got from it is sort of the feel good,
crippling back pain and fucked knees.
Yeah, that too, but we can't worry about that. I do get a lot of pride, I guess. I'm proud of it. I like to talk about it. So you do get something back, and if someone says that's selfish, then I'm sorry that that's selfish, but I'm glad I do get it, because it's what motivates you to carry on, isn't it? Like, I can't wait for the challenge.
But can you imagine if you didn't have the mindset of basically, fuck you, I'm still going to go and do this? There's so many people in this world that when they're, if somebody has a go at them and sends them a hate mail, it might genuinely put them off doing, say, for example, somebody starts a YouTube channel and it's around, I don't know. So my wife follows I think her name's Candy Johnson, and she is now like a celebrity makeup artist, but she started from nowhere, and she started with some crappy little camera and a torch from her daughter's bedroom or something like that, and starts making YouTube like tutorials on how to do makeup and that. Now I think she has her own business. She's done celebrities and all these sponsorships and that. But can you imagine if someone sent her hate mail going, your makeup's garbage and all the rest of it? If she decided not to do that, then her life would not be anywhere near. It's absolutely disgusting that people do that in this day and age.
You can be certain that she probably has had a hell of a lot of hate from it, because it's always the way, but it's all part and parcel, isn't it? Another one I've had, apparently I'm insulting runners. The world record itself is an actual joke, because no one's ever going to do it. I was like, well, obviously someone's done it before me, and I imagine someone's going to do it after me. Apparently I should, I've insulted every single person that I've ran past, or every single person that where my time was quicker. I'm just like, well, I guess every time Kipchoge runs quicker than me, he's insulted me.
Yeah, turn that logic around on them. That's ridiculous.
a different sport, aren't they? It's
Yeah.
my but
Did I read on your Instagram that, in fact, it wasn't your Instagram, when I was doing some research on Safa, the picture of you came up and you had a competition or something to name the fridge.
yeah.
How did this go? Well, clearly you needed a name for it, but
So I've actually gone through two fridges. My first fridge, the one that I climbed the Welsh Three Peaks with, and I did the mental health march for November with. I had to get rid of that one and replace it for a new one because I'd drilled a hole in the motor and filled it with expanding foam to stop the rattle.
right.
I also cut the plug off because, you know, probably the biggest trip hazard is going to be that if it comes untangled. However, for Guinness World Records, the fridge had to be completely unmodified. So I went out, bought a new fridge, left the shelf. I took the glass shelves out before. This time I've just put a bit of tape on them so hopefully they don't shatter.
Yeah.
And they're still in the fridge, just so there was no ambiguity that it was a complete full working fridge. And when it turned up, I was like, well, I feel like I should name it. So I went on Instagram and I literally just put up a, questions things. What should I name my fridge? Everyone give me examples, and I'll just put up a massive, great big poll. And I probably had about 60, 70 people message me with different names. So I whittled it down to like the top 16 and then did like a 2-name shout out for each one and like a round of 16 almost.
Yeah.
The final two were Fridgie McFridgeface or
Standard.
Fridget Jones. But I really didn't want a Fridgie McFridgeface. So
I
on the
don't
last
know, like I wouldn't want Frigid Bloody Jones.
well, I preferred Fridget Jones of the two. So when I put it up, it was like Fridget Jones or Fridget McFridgeface. And at the bottom, I just put, please put Fridget Jones. And then it's probably about a 75, 25% vote. So 25% of people were still trying to upset me.
You mentioned that when you did the official attempt, you couldn't use a modified or had to be unmodified fridge. And it made me remember that there was a group of bootnecks. I don't know how long ago it was, but they ran a marathon. I think it was a CFT kit, and it was denied because somebody had on wrong boots or something.
That was a speed march, and
Right.
apparently denied because they had the wrong rig on because it wasn't a DPM or something like that. It was MTP.
And this is how strict the Guinness World Records are when it comes to breaking records.
Especially if it was the most stressful bit. Once I'd completed Brighton, once I'd completed Brighton, I was honestly afraid that they wouldn't accept it. Bear in mind, I ran Exeter 2 weeks beforehand and also broke the world record whilst wearing boots. Like there's no question that I've broken it, and there's no question that the fridge is there, and I've got plenty of witnesses. But still, I was worried they're not going to accept it.
That's
because there's no way you can film 2.5 hours or just over 2 hours of running around in a circle. Try and do it on your phone, it will die within just over an hour. Can't use a GoPro, that's not going to last for 2 hours. So you just gotta. I had to do as many pictures as I can, recorded little bits, and just hope that they weren't going to be really, really funny about it. But luckily, there's onside and it all accepted.
That's brilliant. With regards to your normal day job within the Corps, I take the hierarchy has to be on site to some extent, but in terms of training for all the events that you've done, has there been any challenges with having to do like troop fizz plus going doing your own fizz, and what sort of challenges have you faced?
So look, as I said, I've been in a draft where I've been working as a part of a training team basically. So I have been massively sort of left to my own devices. So the hardest bit is the opposite of that is every now and then trying to get someone to come with me, just for that little company. No lad wants to run at 10.5, 11-minute mile pace when I've got weight, and no lad wants to put weight on and run with me for as far as I do at that pace. Just for context, the half marathon 2 hours 4 minutes with CFT weight basically, so that's 13 miles rather than 8, and I only took an extra 4 minutes.
Wow.
If you go for London, that's 3 back-to-back CFTs, it plus an extra 2 miles, and then take off over an hour. So each one has to be an hour and 40 minute, 3 back-to-back CFTs. So no one wants to actually fizz with me
I'm
because
not surprised.
it's ridiculous. So the hardest bit was finding people to.
That sounds utterly disgusting, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's always good to break it down to a boot neck because they understand. A
Yeah,
lot of people at some point in their career done a back-to-back CFT, and I done it once in my career and it was stinking
yeah,
up
yeah.
until I started training for this.
Yeah, up until you decided to put yourself in that hurt locker all the time.
Yeah,
Have you had any contact with the American that held the record before you? Did you have any contact with him?
I've not heard anything. I don't know who he is or anything like that. Unfortunately,
Oh, that'd be pretty cool. Ring him
I,
up, being like, yeah, do you hold the world record for running a marathon in my fridge? Oh, yes, I do. Well, not anymore. You don't.
just rub it in. I can't wait for someone to break mine, like, or at least give it an attempt.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point, isn't it? Is that we're always trying to better get one up on or one upmanship, should I say?
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's all about. And I hope someone does break it. Or to be honest, I hope someone attempts it, fails it, and then comes back and breaks it or something. Because
Yeah,
I'd be glad if it just disappeared in a couple of weeks' time.
that'd be
But
perfect.
I'd
Um,
like happy for someone to break it. That's for sure.
yeah. Would you ever try it again and try and break your own record?
I I was if I wasn't going away so soon, I'd probably redo the half marathon and go sub 2 hours
Mm,
because that I broke that one in February. And if I look at what I ran at London, as I said, 2 hours 12 minutes for a half, when I still had another 30 miles to go. I know I can get that under 2 hours,
yeah.
but with this big gap in training, whilst I go away, I think that's it. I'm never doing a full marathon with that fridge again. I
No.
can I can tell you now the battles I had to face and the emotion I faced. Even if someone beat it, I ain't coming back for that.
That must be a testament to how absolutely disgusting it was for you then.
Yeah, I'm sure you feel the same way. We've both probably seen some pretty hard challenges in our life, but physically, that was by far the hardest and most stinking thing I've ever done.
Fair one.
And I felt like I had so much pressure on myself as well. So it's not like I couldn't. There was nowhere to hide. You couldn't even just get your head down and get on with it. Because there's
Yeah.
so many people, and it was just everyone that follows me on Instagram, and just everyone watching. I just felt so devoted to it that
Yeah.
I couldn't go back and do it again. Not a chance.
How did you modify the fridge in order to be able to carry it? Because it looked like you had Bergen straps on it.
Yeah. So initially, for the first two challenges, this is pucker gen. I got a Bergen, cut the Bergen off the back pad and the straps, and then I just ratchet strapped it straight to a fridge. So if you look at any photos of me halfway up the mountains, it's literally ratchet strapped to my back, and that's it. And then for start, it wasn't ideal for running. Again, there's videos of me running it, doing 5Ks with it and stuff like that. It wasn't ideal, rubbed way too much. So I bought an old metal frame from like a Klansman Bergen,
All right.
an old Alice pack or something, and basically just bought the frame and then I cut the straps off what was my Bergen, got them all sewed in, stitched in, and that was a bit more comfortable. I ran Exeter with that initially, and I felt the fridge, rather than being nice and neat against my back, sort of leant back a little bit, which meant all the pressure was straight into my lower back. And although the carriage felt okay, so it felt fine on my shoulders, it just rubbed and rubbed and rubbed and rubbed. And probably on equal par to how miserable I was at London, the pain of that rubbing around Exeter was horrendous. So then I added like extra straps that come from the shoulders up to the top of the fridge that then lent it forward. Comfort wise, like I had a few scrapes on my back, but there was no pain, no real pain from the rubs, etc.
And then you said you did the 3 peaks. So clearly, on running the London Marathon, you said there's a couple of smaller hills, but doing the 3 peaks, they're like three big fucking massive hills. So how did your body cope with going that way, up the way, as opposed to just flat?
So it's the Welsh 3 peaks. So it's Penny Fan, Cardiodress, and then up to Snowdon. I had considered doing the national 3 peaks, but living in Cornwall, the logistics of it all, and transit between them unless, this is when I first started doing it. I'd have needed a better support team, and basically was offering to drive for me and stuff. So that didn't happen. Hence why I stuck to the Welsh Peaks. But yeah, going up isn't the issue. Coming down, that weight shock through the joints, the ankles, the knees, and my groin. That was painful in its own right. My body took longer to repair from the Welsh Peaks than it did from London.
Really?
But again, that could be down to training. So I trained specifically for 3 to 4 months to do the 3 peaks.
Right.
Whereas when you look at London, technically, I guess I started training back last July through carrying weight.
True.
So I did have the best part of 8 to 9 months worth of training. So I was a lot stronger and a lot more resilient.
So what sort of things were you doing to recover after doing things like the 3 peaks and the marathons and things like
that? Big scran, just
that? Big boy eats.
Yeah, eating as much protein as I can. Try not to lose too much weight. Spent a bit more time than I ever have stretching for once.
Not just that, right, lads, stretch in the shower.
Yeah, so making sure I am stretched, especially after the weighted carries. And then basically a few different rehab products that I've got. I've got just a massage gun for my legs that I was pounding every night. And then I won a competition with a company called Myo, and they sent me a set of Myo pumps, which are like big old leg sleeves that you put on, and they compress. So it basically constricts, and the compression is good for increasing your blood flow.
Oh, there was a lad when I did my juniors in 2014, swore by them. Absolutely swore by them.
Expensive, but a brilliant bit. And when I'm trying to get every inch that I can, they definitely helped. And then Combat Fuel basically sponsored me as an athlete, helped me with a bit of PR, and also gave me a decent amount of discount on their products. So I've been smashing every pill you can imagine. And
do you have a code to get a discount on that?
I do have a code to get a discount.
All right. For anyone that's watching on YouTube and listening on the various platforms, I'll put the description down below what Sam's code is. Whilst we're at it, I also have a discount code for Mind Nutrition. Gives you 10% off. I'll put the link down below. And so Mind Nutrition is centered around nootropics. I've been taking lion's mane mushroom for about 3 months now. And I've just started taking ashwagandha as well, which is meant to be really good for you, but that can take up to 3 months to start working. So we'll see how I get on with that. But that's my first plug on a podcast.
Yeah,
brilliant.
It is. I don't know if you've noticed the same, but since I take multivits, cod liver oil. I think I take ashwagandha as well. I think what's called KSM from Combat Fuel.
KSM 66.
Yeah, KSM. Yeah.
Where's my Yeah, KSM 66.
Yeah, so I've just got that magnesium, zinc and magnesium. I take. I've got some joint pills, which aren't Combat Fuel, don't own them, but they supply them. EAAs. I know I've got a lot on it. It's definitely expensive, even with discount. But my God, does it make a difference?
Yeah. Like, so I
can't believe
another guy that I've got planned on coming on. He's a personal trainer. Like, he has some massive accolades, and I can't wait to actually interview him because he's an oppo of mine from when I was up 4-5, so it'll be good to catch up with him. But I asked him, I says, like, realistically, what supplements are good for your joints? And he swears by krill oil. It is like the top one. If you're going to take anything for your joints, krill oil is what's up there.
It all makes such a difference, doesn't it? Like it's definitely not the first thing to do if someone's just doing a bit of fizz here and there. It's not the first thing where you should be spending your money probably. But if you're pretty serious about doing fizz, or you want to train for something specific, so if lads are training for like selection or something, you just smashing all those supplements and just let your body be as strong as it can.
Yeah,
I can't believe the difference that I think it makes for me.
How did you get sponsored? Did you reach out to them, or did they come across your Instagram and reach out to you?
So I already used Combat Fuel Protein.
Right.
So I reached out to them and was like, hey, I use Combat Fuel. This is what I'm doing. Is there any way you can help? And this was way back in, want to say October time maybe, and Alex, the guy that owns Combat Fuel, got in contact with me, gave me a bell, and was like, "Hey, look, what you're doing is awesome. We don't do directs. We can't do like a direct sponsorship where we're going to just give you products, because we don't know how long we're going to support you. But I can give you so I've got a personal discount code, and then I also got a discount code to share with everyone that then also donates 5% to charity, as well
sweet.
as so what they've offered to help with has been absolutely standard. And the best bit as well is such a good guy. I can literally send him a voice note. If I sent him a voice note now, within an hour, I'd have something back with the advice that I need, which is mega helpful.
That's brilliant. It's amazing just how receptacle. How receptive is that a word?
Receptive.
Yeah, how receptive. It's been one of those days. Just how receptive some people are to help others. So a guest that I had on 2 podcasts ago, Peter Kelly, he's the CEO of a company called Employable, and on their last run, it was valued, I think it was £10.1 million. It's ridiculous. And Peter's a very, very busy guy. But back in 2019, I had this really, call it delusions of grandeur, but I had this vision of a website and an app that would take on the likes of Zoopla and Rightmove. And I didn't know the first place to start. So there's a closed Raw Marines Facebook group. I went in there, asked anyone, gents, can anyone help me with this? A couple of people tagged Pete in it. And I says, would you have the time? Didn't know who he was at the time. So I did a bit of Facebook stalking after. He was like, yeah, it's cool. And found out, oh, this guy's the CEO of this company. And then it must have been 19th, 20th of December. He's like, look, I'm free for 15, 20 minutes. And when somebody says I'm free for 15 or 20 minutes, I'm like, that means you're really fucking busy. The fact that you can only give me that amount of time. But yeah, 15, 20 minutes, he rang me up and he sat and he talked me through like the steps on how to get a product from an idea to like the baseline of what investors want to look at, to then after that, once they've invested, and how to progress. And I'm like, this guy doesn't know me at all. It's just the fact that we share that commonality of we were interested in doing stuff. So the fact that we're bootnecks, the fact that I wanted to start this, or had this business idea, the fact he was in business and all this, just a really good guy. But like you said, you've reached out to them, or he's reached out to you and gone, look, I think what you're doing is great. We want to support you. And it's just phenomenal what, people are more than happy to help others. It's a phenomenal thing.
Definitely that sort of military kinship comes in, doesn't it? Like the majority of stickers on that fridge are people that are either in the military, been in the military, or have at least very close ties to those in the military.
Yeah.
All of them more than happy to help me out and sort of sponsor me in different ways, shapes or forms, which, doing all this has been an extremely expensive sort of expensive burden, as well as the training, whether that's travel, whether it's supplements, whether it's kit. I literally rip holes in t-shirts just from, even when I'm running with a Bergen all the time, it just shreds away my t-shirts.
Yeah.
And socks, I go through socks like there's no tomorrow. I've literally got a specific sock sponsor who are absolutely great and have sent me 30, 40 pairs of socks.
Who's that?
It's a company called Steigen. And the UK brand of this, I think it's a German company, basically sponsored me, and they just funky colors. If you look at my Brighton half marathon, I got bright pink socks on, which sadly have now worn through. But the fact that I then didn't have to worry about, I can't put cheap £1 socks on because they would last one run, and these socks that they're sending me are lasting me for a number of weeks whilst running with weight. Which rather than days, which was what my socks were initially doing.
Yeah, it must take a burden off of you, because how much would those socks cost you normally?
They're £13 a pair.
£13 a pair.
Yeah, but
holy shit!
Bear in mind, so they initially sponsored me. They sent me like 6 or 7 pairs of socks initially. I liked them that much that I then bought another like 2 or 3 myself, and then they got in contact with me again and was like, "Hey, why have you just bought 3 pairs of socks?" I was just like, oh, I just really like them. And I wanted these ones. They're like well, next time, message us first. And I was like,
Yeah.
so it'd been about another a couple of months. And I messaged them like, hey, I'm just gonna put in another order for some more socks because as I said, I was running through them, but they're so comfy. I was barely getting any blisters. Really, really, really good socks. And they was like, what ones do you want? And I was basically going to go buy these three. And they're like, okay, we'll send them down to you now. Come in the post, 8 pairs of socks or whatever it was. So the three I wanted plus another five. And I was
That's
like, well, I haven't.
brilliant. Do you have a discount code for them?
Unfortunately, I don't. Otherwise, I'd.
Oh, that's a
Otherwise,
shame.
yeah.
Is there anyone else that you have discount codes for that we can put in the description below?
No, I think it's just combat fuel. I think a lot of resilient nutrition, for example, they sent me free stuff to help me with training. Company worth looking into. I don't have a discount
Yeah,
code for them, but if you're doing anything endurance, worth looking at, definitely. Uh,
fantastic.
Another company that I'd highly recommend, who sadly wouldn't sponsor me, was a Precision Fuel and Hydration.
I've heard
Um,
of them.
so that's the gels that I used, and the um sodium tablets.
Right.
So to replace my socks and all, I got all that from them. They did throw me in a few extra freebies because I sent them I did a quick interview with them for their magazine. So in my order, they sent me in a few freebies, which is quite nice. But even though they don't sponsor me, I plug them constantly because their
Yeah.
gels, I think they're great. And
So
and
what other things were you? So you got the gels. What other like supplements in that were you intaking during the marathons and the Three Peaks?
uh, so food, I bought some little crepes from Aldi. The little rolled up crepes.
Yeah.
That was the only solid fuel I had. And then during the marathon, it was literally just gels. I was taking about 90 grams of carbs via gel per hour. For
Wow.
the so it's heavy, but again, fuel was always going to be my enemy.
How many calories did your watch tell you how many calories you burned during your marathon?
It said just over 4,000, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was more.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like, wow.
Yeah. The
So,
March from November, so that's 21 miles hike along Jurassic Coast. Um, my watch at the end of that said 5,500 calories burnt in a single day.
no wonder you're having big eats at the end of it.
Yeah, yeah. Just I'm not a big chap. At the minute I'm sat at about 75, 76 kilos. Start of the journey I was about 78. So I'm
Right.
not a large person, but 5,500 calories. I can't scram that even when I try.
Yeah, fair one. See, I don't mind eating some dirty food. McDonald's the other night there. I don't mind it, but I definitely don't feel better for it after. There's a
That
guy I follow, what's his name? Brian Johnson is his name. So this guy was the CEO of I think it was a tech company um, in the US, and he sold it for something like $800 million. So needless to say, he's never going to have to work again. Now, I think he invested it in various other companies and then gets paid dividends and yada yada. But he actually started another company called Blueprint. And what he's trying to do is basically map out age reversal in humans. Now, this guy he gets bloods taken regularly. He has all these biomarkers, so like his cholesterol, basically everything that is measurable within the body that can be attributed to an age, he regularly measures. So he takes in 1,000 something like 1,950 calories a day. The food is exactly the same. It's like 3 meals throughout the day.
wonder if I've seen on YouTube. I think does he do like red light therapy and all that sort of stuff as
Yeah,
well? Yeah, I think
but this
bit,
guy is
bit of
fucking
a strange.
insane. Yeah, but
Yeah.
now he's 45 years old, and he has slowed his aging down. So you think that the aging process of a human, for just generally, he has slowed it down to 0.65 of what a normal person ages at through all these systems that he's put in place and all the rest of it. But even some of his markers, so your the thing that you blow into and it measures your lung capacity, he has the lungs of an 18-year-old. This guy's 45. It's phenomenal. But
Well,
yeah,
he only has a birthday once every 18 to 20 months.
yeah, exactly. So the 0.65 of him aging is similar to the rate of the aging of a 10-year-old child. And it's just phenomenal. I forgot the point I was even making about this, but yeah, the guy's absolutely insane. But now they are,
I think I've definitely heard of it or looked into it ever so slightly, but
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see where he is in sort of 20 years' time.
yeah. I mean,
Does he
his son is now implementing the food that he eats as well. So he's starting, and I think his son does some of the stuff that he does. So yeah, definitely.
I'm sure he takes
Imagine.
like 60 pills a day of
So the
everything.
pills that he takes, I'm sure he says he takes something like 106 pills a day. So the food that he takes, basically anything he physically eats has fought to be on his plate. It's because the biomarkers in his body, the mad scientists that work for him are like, you need to physically eat this. Whereas the pills that he takes, that's you don't need to physically eat that. You can just take it as a supplement type thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, really interesting guy. Really interesting.
ever so slightly mental.
Yeah, like pure mad doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's highly, highly far right on the spectrum.
But it makes me think, this guy's doing all these things in order to prolong life, and the phys routine that he's got has been looked at, by PTs and all the rest of it. So it makes me wonder just how if we really went in depth with our phys, nutrition, all that, how more effective we could be, whether it be, just general trip phys or on the battlefield,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If you were fed and trained and looked after to be machines, like you you could literally almost breed like superhumans.
Yeah,
I believe.
like
And
real life Captain Americas.
yeah, yeah, definitely. There's definitely, correct supplementation, correct training programs with physio and everything else. But then the question is that the priority, the time and effort that it would take and the cost?
I would argue no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And also, you've got to really want it. Too many. I've noticed this. So when I was a troop sergeant, young lads will lock themselves away in their grot. Some of them will go into phys. The rest of them will just sit there on their Xboxes playing Call of Duty. And
Yeah,
it's like,
esports now, isn't it?
yeah. Whereas when I joined in 2005, it was everyone was getting in communal rooms and either going out in a piss or spending time together. That cohesion. And now, not everyone, but you get some guys that just have no interest whatsoever. They come to
Yeah,
work, do their job, and then they lock themselves in the grots until it's Friday morning, and then they go home for the
yeah.
weekends.
I think it's just the
Um,
cultural changes in the world that's doing that. The access to look at what your mobile phone does now compared to 2005.
yeah, but I always say I don't have a phone. I've got a computer that has a phone app in it
Yeah,
because I
exactly.
very rarely pick my phone up, put it to my ear, and speak to someone. It's just apps that I use. I might
Yeah.
message people, but I very rarely actually use my phone for calling people.
No, there's no requirement, is there now? Because you've got so many other avenues.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a slow dwindling spiral downwards.
yeah. But we'll see what the future brings.
Exactly.
Before we wrap up, there's one question that I ask every guest, and I know I'm going to put you on the spot here, but it's a unique question, and there's no right or wrong answer. And that question is, what does it mean to you to serve in the armed forces?
Well, bloody hell, talk about putting me on the spot. I think it's just a sense of pride. Like the pride that you get from it is something else. I think where no matter what, I wish I could explain to anyone how proud my mum is.
Mm,
Like, like as a bootnik, you fully get this. You walk into somewhere, it's literally the first thing she tells anyone. Oh, he's a Royal Marine Commando. And I'm just sat there, hands in my arms, like, for goodness sake, mum. But when you sit back and think, the only reason she does it is because she's so proud.
yeah.
Um, and same with other ones of my friends. That's important. And then on the other side of it, the personal side of it is a camaraderie.
Mm,
Um, outside of those few people that just want to sit in their grot, you've got mates that you can rely on for literally anything.
yeah.
And when you're all having shit times, you can still like rip the piss out of each other and take banter like 3 steps too far, where anywhere else in the world you'd probably end up in prison. But
Yeah,
in your safe place, that banter goes the right way and definitely helps.
100%. Love it. Awesome. Well, thanks very much for coming on, mate. And as I mentioned, we'll put all the links, your socials, the sponsorship people, the discount codes, all that sort of stuff. We'll put it in down below. We'll also put. You're still raising money, aren't you?
No, I've not long turned it off.
Oh, it's a shame.
You actually had not really quite the same effect, but my next small event, which I'm now fundraising for, I'm doing a 5K with my niece who's 12.
We're going to put the link for that down below as well.
Perfect.
Perfect. All right. Thanks very much for coming on, Sam. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Stand Easy podcast with your host, Crash Stevenson. Join in the discussion over on the Facebook page at fb.me/Stand Easy Podcast.